Make a wish for once with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'm sick, go with the flow, new flow, up phones one day. Thought one, thoughts come, what's run, yes, I need it.
Welcome to Pop Culture Cuties, the podcast that blends local business with the broader pop culture. Each week, I sit down with North Georgia's movers and shakers, business owners, creatives, industry insiders to talk about their work, their journey, and how their field connects to the broader cultural landscape. If you love great conversation over tea, coffee, wine, then this is the place for you. This week, I am delighted to be chatting with Miss Deborah Zilm from Made in Habersham.
Hello.
An artisan and a gentlewoman rooted in the heart of Clarksville. I've had the pleasure of sitting down in her beautifully inspired studio. You can see some of the examples of her work in the background. To explore an ancient and quite frankly just mesmerizing craft. So Miss Deb, welcome. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Deb. I have a small business here in Clarksville, just outside of Clarksville, called Made in Habersham. Because when I first started out, I wasn't sure where I'm going, and I wanted the name to be broad. And over time, specifically, my knitting business has developed. And so Made in Habersham is a knitting studio now. And that's primarily what I do here. Most days of the week, more hours than I like, but it's my love and it's my passion, and everything is made here in Habersham.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It all comes together. So at Made in Habersham, Miss Deborah Zilm seamlessly blends the timeless tradition of Fair Isle knitting from Scotland, Shetland Islands with a distinct kind of modern sensibility. So using a rare combination of machine and hand knitting techniques common in Shetland, but seldom seen stateside, she creates heirloom quality sweaters. So the type of sweaters that you give to your grandkids and they give to their grandkids. I still have some sweaters from my grandfather that endure the test of time, and I can tell that these are definitely the type of sweaters that you pass down. So she creates these heirloom quality sweaters, hats, scarves, handbags, and more. Her pieces perfectly capture that kind of old money look. It's effortlessly elegant, quietly luxurious, and perpetually on trend. It's the sort of elegant that doesn't come from having a brand plastered, but it's one that you see it and you know it's good taste.
In fact, speaking to that, the popularity of Fair Isle knitting became popular because, don't quote me on the date, around the 1920s, Edward, the Prince of Wales, was sitting for a painting, and he wore a Fair Isle sweater. And that immediately popularized it. So yeah, people saw that. People saw the quality of craftsmanship that the prince was wearing. And that immediately popularized the Fair Isle sweater. They had been made for, centuries prior, but that was the thing because he was wearing one. So.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And I actually evoked, just that if you're obsessed as I am with like Jackie O or Kate Middleton, if you're interested in their style, then Miss Deb is the woman that you need to connect with, whether you live in Habersham or in Georgia, or if you live in Tennessee, wherever, because she's online.
I'm online and we ship.
That's right, and we'll talk more about that soon. So I have so many questions for you.
Go for it.
But I first want to focus on Fair Isle knitting. And for those of us that are not as geographically astute, where is Fair Isle?
So the Shetland Islands are a group of islands north of Scotland. First are the Orkney Islands, and then beyond that are the Shetland Islands. And the most southern of the Shetland Islands is a tiny little island called Fair Isle. And truly, 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 that is where the technique of Fair Isle knitting began. Fair Isle knitting, the term has become more broad, but there are rules to it. There are there's many forms of color knitting, but Fair Isle knitting requires that you only ever have, I'm going to nerd you out here, 2 colors in one row. That it is made with Shetland yarn, which is a very specific type of yarn that lends itself to being a firm and robust fabric, because Fair Isle knitting started in homes with mostly seafaring men in the house, and women knitted strong, full of natural lanolin cloth sweaters just for that purpose. And then they last a lifetime. And that's sort of, yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you asked me just where are they.
No, I think that's very interesting.
But the seafaring, the geography makes sense to the end product. Yeah.
It's very sturdy, and the inner teacher in me loves the fact that you have props. So very impressed that you brought props. And now, full disclosure.
Yeah.
I am no knitting expert. I can sew, but I can sew like a button, or I can like mend a seam and the occasional small hole. And even as I say that I can do these things, I will also say that my husband just chooses not to take advantage of these resources and just to buy new things because the quality isn't always up to scratch.
Fair enough.
Please forgive any especially layman-like terminology that I throw around in this piece. I just know that Ms. Deb will graciously set me straight.
To teach. Yep.
Thank you. And probably some of y'all will in the comments too, because you guys love to correct me. We're learning together. And that's half the fun, or at least that's my cope. So can you explain what Fair Isle knitting is apart from other knitting traditions?
So Fair Isle knitting is first of all, I think it's important to talk about what is knitting. Knitting, we've all seen our grandmas with the sticks and been in the evenings knitting and sending you an ugly sweater at Christmas. Knitting is pulling loops through loops through loops. That is all knitting is. There are loops on a needle, and you pull a loop through a loop, and you keep doing that vertically until you have a piece of fabric. So that's what's common in knitting. All knitting is pulling loops through loops. Fair Isle knitting follows a certain set of rules. You only have, although it can be quite colorful, yowzers, color, lots of color. There is only ever 2 colors in a single row. I don't know why that has to be, but if we're going to call it Fair Isle knitting, that's how it has to be. Secondly, Fair Isle knitting is done with Shetland wool. Shetland wool, I went to the Shetland Islands this past year and learned a lot and saw Shetland sheep. It's a particular type of breed, and I'm not an expert in this. And the way the yarn ends up is what we call sticky yarn. It's it's clingy. It clings to itself. And so when you finish a product and then you wash it, it becomes very waterproof. So Shetland Fair Isle knitting requires that you use Shetland wool. It's not Fair Isle knitting if you're not using Shetland wool. And the Fair Isle rules, technically, I think originally you had to actually have made it on Fair Isle, but that takes like a 14-hour ferry, and I think there's only 50 people who live on Fair Isle anymore.
Yeah.
So
probably become extinct if we kept things that
I'm
strict.
going to carry the tradition on right here in Habersham instead.
We have better internet. Better internet's a lot better. So, you can listen to your podcast while you work on your knitting.
That's right.
What do you what drew you personally to Fair Isle knitting? Like, was it the technique? Was it the look? Was it the history?
The colors and the history. I've always been attracted to craft that allows me to take something that is sort of a dying tradition and carry it forward. And sometimes teach someone directly. If not, every time someone purchases a sweater or a garment from me, they've got a piece that someone else is going to ask about, and someone else is going to ask about, and that helps carry on the tradition as well. It's very important to me that dyeing craft continue, that they be resurrected and taught.
And it is. So that's something that I've found lately, is that crafting has become very popular again with Gen Z and Gen A. I had students that, in the middle of a history class, they would be knitting. And I would let them knit, too, because they're still listening, but they're using their hands productively. And I'd let them knit. I'd let them do, I can't think of the name, but they'd make, like, little hedgehogs,
Crochet.
Yeah,
yes. Sure.
And they'd sew on little samplers, and it was really trendy and popular. And I found out it's because it's very popular on TikTok, crafting.
It is having a resurrection. Yeah.
With the young
Renaissance.
people. Yeah, I see it in Dollar General, these little packs. And as a teacher, I would give rewards out instead of like candy or whatever. I'd give out little crafting packs. And they went like gangbusters.
Cool.
So it is becoming, there is a resurrection of this new generation of crafters. And I so love it. And for those that are looking for something new, you should definitely look into this Fair Isle knitting. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, or just start with knitting. Start with some needles and yarn. Just
Absolutely.
start somewhere.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
You never know what direction a hobby will take you. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about the two colors. How do you choose your color palettes?
So pardon my reach. There are, I think it's a personal choice. Obviously, you're limited to the colors on hand by the manufacturer. There's two primary major Shetland wool producers, so I'm limited to their color palette. But there's an aesthetic that you kind of go with. And I like to use, I paint, I have done different things in my life, but I've never been great with color. I have an artist, very talented artist daughter who says, Mom, get out of the box, use some color. So I tend to rely on nature. I love travel. And when I'm traveling, I like to take pictures. Nobody ever says, have you ever noticed nobody's ever said, oh, Mother Nature really made that clash. What was she thinking? Right?
That's a good point.
We accept everything in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I often start from that place as a jumping off point. There's a sweater behind you we can't see. But in this particular sweater, which is entitled Maine, this is from a picture. We have the ocean. We have rocks and moss. So for me personally, that feeds my color aesthetic. There are traditional colors that are used in older Fair Isle patterns. But that's where my mind goes and how I arrive there.
That makes me think of a lot of Native American literature. Makes me think of like a Linda Hogarth novel. The use of color in such a way, it's very evocative. And I love that you name these pieces because they are works of art, and they certainly deserve naming. They have their own character and identity.
Yeah, I have a sweater that I make called Cafe Tropical because it was from my trip to Costa Rica. You would never put Costa Rica together with warm knit Fair Isle garments, but that was the inspiration, was hibiscus plants, and so I let nature help me with what I want to stack, which is color.
And do you follow, I guess let's actually transition into yarn.
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about yarn, and what kind of yarn is traditionally used in Fair Isle knitting, and why is it so well suited to the technique?
So, yarn comes, pardon my reach again, for me in a couple different formats. But it's all from Shetland. I obviously do other projects for pleasure where I'm not using Shetland yarn, but if we're talking about Fair Isle, so I can't speak on the specifics of the breed, although I did visit a lovely Uredale farms in Shetland to learn more about them. But the breed of sheep lends itself to a wool that is, I think, high in lanolin, and someone might come around and correct me, and that's fine. And lanolin lends itself to being water resistant. Again, it has it's milled in such a way that it has a stickiness, almost like a Velcro. It takes a little while to get used to knitting with it because it is kind of clingy. And what happens is those fibers, almost like a Velcro, sort of connect. And that's what creates it's a solid fabric, right? In a way, it's felted.
And I've noticed that, and I love that, because oftentimes with knit items, they are there's those little gaps, but I noticed just how solid this product was.
Right.
And I really like it.
Right. Now, Shetland wool is only from Shetland sheep.
Okay.
Particular breed, raised in Shetland. Some of the makers, most of it never leaves Shetland. There's, you can discuss different providers, manufacturers. Some of it leaves Shetland, it comes back just to be milled and then comes back. I was really, truly impressed with the level of passion that the people who mill, breed sheep, anybody connected in Shetland wool, there is such a pride and passion in producing a quality of wool that can only come from there.
I can believe it.
It was a beautiful passion to see.
And I've seen in some of your Instagram videos the process of selecting the wool.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat.
So a friend and I went to the Shetland Islands last year, and we got to see how they grade the different wools. We didn't get to go and actually see them spin the yarn, but we got to see them. We're just walking by one day, and this particular Jameson and Smith, we're walking by, and there they are with the fleeces, and they're grading the fleeces. As they have a whole process that's way beyond my pay grade, and what qualities they're looking for. It's fascinating. It's their whole life producing quality wool to make quality wool yarn.
And it's something that people are very passionate about, too.
Oh, yes.
And do you source your yarns from any specific makers or regions, especially for authenticity?
Yeah. Shetland wool. Only it has to come from Shetland. I, in particular, like Jameson and Smith and Jameson. There are some small... because they're readily available and they have large color palettes, and they're not cost prohibitive. There are some smaller. We went to a farm that produces their own yarn, Uredale Farms. I can speak on them. I have made some lovely things with the yarn I picked up there. So it's nice to be able to support small farmers when you can. I am doing production work, so there's a fine line. You try and find the fine line in between. So for me, color specific, I can buy small balls or giant cones of yarn for larger production pieces.
Absolutely. And how do you see Fair Isle knitting fitting into modern fashion?
It has come back. TV shows have people with, you see yoke sweaters all the time right now. Last winter, that was the thing to have yoke sweaters. You see them all the time. It seems to come and go. Again, like we referenced earlier, in the 1920s, a prince wore it, so that made it cool. I think like with any fashion, you design something. I design a pattern, and I think people are just going to randomly discover it. And, no, it's not really about that. It's about that moment in time where somebody who has the attention of people has it on, So if you're out there, stars and people, of influence, I got a sweater for you.
Oh yeah, and doesn't the man with the eyebrows from Schitt's Creek? I think his name is David. Wear one. He has the gray sweater?
He
Styled,
wears
at least.
every kind of thing. Fair Isle knitting was everywhere this past year.
It has been.
Yeah,
it's been very popular. And as far as the learning curve goes, for somebody wanting to try Fair Isle knitting for the first time, what would you suggest?
So there's two types of people. Those who have never knit, to whom I say, go make a piece of solid color. Get comfortable, learn how to play with yarn. It's not hard. It's loops through loops through loops. How difficult could it be? But there is a dexterity to it, you know, and finding your particular method. For some people, so my friend I went to Scotland with, I'm always trying to finish. And she said, some people just like the process, Deb. And I have to be reminded of that from time to time. So start with regular knitting. Fair Isle knitting can look intimidating, but it's still just loops through loops through loops. So there's lots of YouTube videos. I have some YouTube videos. I'm definitely going to be putting up more. We're going to be doing some knit-alongs for a new product I'm putting out that will help you get to knit and play with color and use color.
It's very cool.
And so, but at the end of the day, it's just knitting. Ask your grandma. Find a local knitting group. Every yarn store has a little group of people that get together, and we're not all little old ladies. And North Georgia, Isadora Popper has a wonderful knitting group of women and men. We get together on Thursdays, and they have a group on Saturdays as well. Fine. Any knitter will be happy to teach you how to knit.
And I've seen that like knitting and crafting is like the ladies' version of a cigar culture.
Yes, but I need to correct something. Knitting for men men have always knit.
Sure.
And in that, you know, I mean, back eons ago, they were making fishing nets, which lent themselves to making cloth, which lent to right? But men are knitting like crazy these days. If you get on Instagram or Facebook, there are so many male knitters. That's definitely come back too.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and I am more likely to picture in my head in a historical sense, like a man knitting, than maybe like a modern day man, because it's something that's been lost in a way, is the fact that men can knit, men can sew, men can craft, and they used to have to do it. And they used to do it all the time.
I have a friend, he is up at that store, Isadora Popper, and he is a knitting expert. He's going to the Shetland Islands in October with like 20 guys who knit. Yeah. That's what they do, guys who knit. And so, there's clubs for guys who knit.
And I've heard it, even just with knitting, like, I've heard it prevents things like Alzheimer's and other deteriorating conditions. So starting something like that when you're younger, I've heard like crafting, learning a language, some painting, you know, all of these things that kind of take your mind off of things are not just good for your mental health, but also good for your...
we live in a very busy world, and just to do something that is single-minded every once in a while is truly a gift.
Yeah, I mean, Winston Churchill used to paint because he said it was the only thing that he could do that would take his mind completely off of anything else. Yeah. And the same can be applied, I think, just to anything that you're trying to do well. And as far as speaking about learning goes, as I understand it, you have a new venture coming. Yeah. Breaking news.
I am super excited. So we didn't talk yet about something called machine knitting. Now, I'm a hand knitter. I use good old-fashioned needles. But I got to backtrack a little bit with you. Is that okay if I head in a different direction?
And while you do that, I'm going to look at the questions on the screen.
Sure. So sometime back in, I'm going to say, the early 1900s, rudimentary machines were created for homes. And, well, actually, industrial machines were created well before that. And to produce knitwear, you know, production. And then home machines were made. I did a blog this morning, which you can check out on madeinhaversham.com. That'll tell you a little bit more. But domestic machines were created and became very popular in the 60s and 70s. And I have a collection of them. And what happens in my process is that when I make a pattern from scratch, that pattern is hand knit Always, always, always. It starts with a series of dots and development of a pattern, and then it is hand knit. If it's something I'm going to make again and again and again, I do a form of what's called hybrid knitting, where some of the repetitive parts I do on the machine, I put the remainder on the needles, and then I'll hand do some of the more significant design elements, like the crowns of all my hats. So for me, I do a lot of what's called hybrid knitting, where I combine the quicker pace of a machine knit product, which is very manual. Still, it involves me moving a carriage back and forth and a lot of manipulation. It's not electric. It operates on a punch card. Ask your grandmother what a punch card is. She'll tell you. And so it's still a very manual process, but it speeds things up a little bit. Taking machine knitting and combining it with hand knitting is something that's been done in the Shetland Islands for a long time. When you buy a sweater there, more than likely, if it has a plain part, the plain part was done on a machine. The fancy parts are more than likely done by hand. And I'm trying to bring that home. So this is the Just the Good Parts sweater. It's my pattern. I have, it's in a traditional Fair Isle style. I've made available the body and sleeves for purchase. You put them on a regular set of knitting needles via my instructional video, and then you begin to hand knit just the good parts, and that's why it's called the Just the Good Parts kit. I sell finished sweaters as well on my website at madeinhaversham.com, but if you're a knitter, and you don't want to spend, if you're a knitter, you know the term sleeve island. You get stuck on sleeve island. You are spending days and days doing that last sleeve of plain knitting, and you're just over it. Well, this is your ticket off of sleeve island. You buy these parts, you knit the good parts, and it all comes together as a kit. So that is launching this week. I'm super excited. It's one of those products that you don't know you need until I show you that you don't know you need. And hoping that and really promoting it. I think it's a great idea for people who want to finish a sweater over a long weekend or a week, whatever their pace is. Or like you said, is a good project for just starting out. Right. It's for anybody. Or you have a stash of yarn. I have buckets of these things that are halfway filled, and I've got to use them on something. I'll make all the colors. Or you buy the color pack and you do it as seen.
It seems like it'd be a great gift too, to like if you have a niece or a nephew or a son or a daughter that's really interested in crafting, or if you want to connect with a friend or a mom,
or do a local knit along. Any of my knitting friends out there in the world, you know what a knit along is. And we're going to be doing one actually sometime over the summer at in Raven. So you'll find more information.
Yeah. And I love the camaraderie of it. You know, the social aspects. When I think of knitting, I think of Little House on the Prairie, Gather. That was my series. Okay, the books, not the show. The show was terrifying.
It's funny that you say that because really, it's everybody has an old timey view of it, but. We get a little snarky, a little scrappy, a little off color, but
for sure.
And we have a lot of fun.
Especially if you have a couple of glasses of wine.
Oh, that's really a popular thing is to go to a local venue and have a sip and knit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell. It lends to being social.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
sure many people learned about many acts of gossip probably took place over many hearths and many tables and many cups of wine over the centuries, even today.
Weren't we just quoting Steel Magnolias?
We sure were.
If you don't have something nice to say about someone.
We Southern ladies know how to gossip. If that's one thing we know how to do. That's something that we do well. And now, I'll admit, I have a deep, pretty insufferable, actually, love for all things British. It's really annoying. And I'm talking like I have a full Tudor obsession. I referenced Henry VIII earlier today in our conversation. Mm-hmm. You're lucky you only had one reference, and that it wasn't three. So, love Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte. I have an active interest in the current royal family. So as I was scrolling through your website, I couldn't help but wonder, do you ever take like custom orders?
Yeah.
And the reason why I ask is because I have long dreamed of like owning a version of that iconic red Princess Diana sweater. You know, the one that had like the rows of white sheets and then there's that one black sheep. But every time I see it online, it's so cheap looking.
Yeah, no,
Costume.
I absolutely, I do bespoke work. I did numerous sweaters this year for people. Maybe and it happens in lots of different ways. Maybe they found me at a craft fair and I brought some samples but it's not their size. So it's a very easy process to do custom knitwear. Obviously I work mostly specifically in Fair Isle. And I'll deviate if someone needs. But yeah, very easy process. Just contact me. The website has a contact me form. It all starts with a conversation. Whether that happens at a craft fair or online, all starts with a conversation.
And somebody asked in the comment section, they said, do you have crocheters too? And so I wonder if this question could take two routes. I think it's like, do you have like, as part of the knit-a-thon, are crocheters allowed to come? Or is it that with
when we
knitting,
get,
can you do
maybe
crochets?
they mean like like when we get together for the knitters
Yeah,
up
I
in,
think that could
up
be
in
it.
Isadora Popper. We welcome everybody. There's some people who just are up there doing, I've seen people doing embroidery. It's just people who just want to enjoy craft together.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely.
And
If that's what the question was about, then yeah.
And if it's about the style of like the Shetland style, can that be done through crocheting or is it just knitting?
Crochet is a whole other thing. So crochet, though, my granddaughter is she's 12, she's an amazing crocheter. She has this mind where she can just construct things and make animals and stuffies and things without a pattern. But so it's very much loops through loops, just like knitting, but it is a whole other thing. I am limited in my knowledge of crochet. That's how much of a different thing it is. I'm not going to say knitters don't crochet and crocheters don't knit.
Right.
But you're kind of it's cat people, dog people.
You get into your rhythm.
But all are welcome.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
And let's see. So the vendor scene. So we first met at the North Georgia Art and Artisan Festival at the Mill last October. That was the event that the Cute North Georgian magazine hosted. And when you were a vendor at the event, you were so kind, so helpful, offering insights, encouragement, some guidance on how to improve the vendor experience, which leads me to ask, how long have you been attending events like this one?
So, actually only a few years. So I live in North Georgia. I live in Georgia and I make knitwear. And as much as I wish I could sell hats in July, it's just not happening.
Good point.
So my vendor season is roughly August through January. I catch the Christmas crowd. So those are the ones I primarily go to. There's some great ones, especially up in this northeast corner. The Mountaineer Festival is wonderful up in Rabun. Folks like you have have been experimenting with different smaller shows, and they're all great. Some are a little bit of everything, and people just buy gloves and little stocking stuffers. Some are more upscale and artist oriented, and for some of those folks, I might make them a custom bespoke product, and some are just, you never know. It all starts with conversations, and that's what I love about being at the vendor events.
Yeah.
They're a grind. It's a lot of work. And, you're setting up tents and bringing inventory and finding your space, and sometimes you're back and forth and hotel nights. But for me, nothing beats, I can sell online, and I love my online customers, but to have conversations, find out what people really want, talk to people one-on-one, and have an exchange is the best thing for any artist.
Yeah.
You need that.
Oh, I agree. It makes everything so much more authentic.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why whenever we do before a podcast episode, we always try and chat a little bit and connect with the individual, because you don't want to, you have to get to know the person. To make
Anybody
something
can go buy
meaningful.
something off the rack.
Yeah.
But when you can have something that's made for you, or, you know, you get to touch and feel, they get to touch and feel. You don't get to do that online. So I especially love vendor events.
Yes, and you can tell if it's going to be flattering. You can tell because you know your body type and you're up close and personal. You know exactly what the fabric is.
They can see the work that went into it.
Absolutely. And since then, I've spotted you at a few other events, which makes me think you're very much a part of this like creative scene. And I've noticed more and more that it seems like there's like this vendor or artist subculture in Habersham. Is that a thing?
I don't know that it's a subculture. Sorry, I'm distracted.
We're having a storm,
Yeah, the thunder's really rolling.
Swept away.
I don't know that it's a subculture. I mean, you have the art, what's the thing where once a year they...
Oh, the Big Red Apple?
No, where venue to venue to venue. I think there's a lot of home studios here. There's a lot of, I mean, look at all the potters up in the Sauté area.
Right.
I don't know that it's a subculture. I think maybe because we're not walking the streets of New York all together at the same time in a very condensed area, it feels that way. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and that's why I go to knitting, is because I get to talk to other people and get their ideas. We are a little more pocketed, though, from each other. I think
that makes sense.
I think that's probably true, and I think it's just geography.
It is. I think that's true, because I think depending on where you're at, you're right. There's places where there's more pottery oriented or more knitting oriented, and also there's just so much space out here and we're all spread out. Mm-hmm. So that makes a lot of sense. Since then, and I've actually, I see a question. So, guys, I have terrible vision, so I'm going to have to walk over to it. I haven't changed my glasses prescription in 8 years, so that's a problem.
Well, we tried to create
an intimate,
ergonomic situation, but...
She said, my daughter taught herself to crochet, and I used to do Japanese amigurumi.
Yeah.
Okay, amigurumi. What is amigurumi?
Well, it's a form of, it's not my specialty area, so I might speak out of term. You see a lot of people making, like, the crochet animals, mm-hmm. right? But I think within that is even a more specific subset of that type of, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, type of crocheting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, kids really do enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And rapid fire sequence. So,
all right.
People, I will be very impressed if you can do it 3 to 5 words. Many people do it 3 to 5 paragraphs. So, the question is, the last book you loved.
It had to be a technical knitting manual. That's what I read. Mm-hmm. I don't read. Yeah.
I'm just glad you didn't say like A Court of Thorns and Roses or something.
No, I am a nonfiction kind of gal.
Mm-hmm. I am too. I love biographies.
But I do have books.
Yes, I see. Yes, very literate. Like I said, I'm just glad you didn't say Court of Thorns and Roses. Lately, when I hear a woman say that she likes books, at first I get a little interested. I'm like, oh, you like to read too? And then you find out it's just like. Yeah, no, it was more than likely something to be learned from. Yeah,
if
good.
I read.
Yeah, I've become so, I hear the word, I'm a bookworm now, and I'm like, oh no.
I wish I could read. I really do. I see a person with a good book and I envy the ability, but my mind, it's I have monkey mm-hmm. mind and I just can't get out of myself and into, yeah. Although I will say, when I do read, the last book I read was a Vonnegut book. Don't ask me which one it was. I resurrected some. I like Steinbeck. I like Vonnegut. I like Kesey. I like,
all the things that make you want to smoke a cigarette and put on a beret.
All the hippie authors, yeah.
Absolutely. So Jack Kerouac. Yes, so you sound like my husband. He reads these very, like, I'm a reader, but he's a reader. And he'll read these intentionally thick Russian literature books Tolstoy and Crime and Punishment and Infinite Jest, which we literally used to support our couch because it broke. And so we replaced the little leg with Infinite Jest. And I think that's a much better use.
It's a book and furniture.
And he actually finished that. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, these days you go on, I went on Book Talk because I just downloaded TikTok, which gave me cancer and any other method of diseases that I could possibly get.
Does that?
And I was on Book Talk, and I'm like, this is cute. I thought I was going to find some really cute recommendations. It was the most vile, violent, psychotic books that you could imagine. And like, that's where the ladies go to suggest books. And so I was almost afraid to ask this question. But I'm like, if we're going to talk about pop culture, I do want to talk about Book Talk for just a moment.
Yeah. Books are a necessity for me, not a guilty pleasure.
Yes. And I'm not even a book snob. Like, I will read things like The Other Boleyn Girl. I like some Philippa Gregory. I like some Alison Weir. But I draw a line. I have a line.
I'm looking at my bookcase. I did reread Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay.
About the time the movie was out. That's a pretty committed book. That's a paperback that's about that. I won't say I didn't skip through a few pages.
That's okay. Well, and you have Ghost Out of Watchmen. So, yeah, we've got some overlap. We've got some overlap in there. And what is your go-to comfort food?
Oh, carbs. So, toast. I think toast is highly underrated. You can put butter on it. You can put cinnamon and sugar on it. You can put jam on it. And English muffins. Yeah, that's my comfort food.
Gosh, I miss carbs. I have a non-cancerous brain tumor that secretes constant prolactin. So, you know how there's such thing as wet nurses in the Middle Ages? I could legitimately be a wet nurse. I wondered, how does this happen? How are these ladies that
I am not going to put you on the spot with this, but I do have questions for you later.
Yes. So I can't eat carbs because I'm constantly in my body. It's like you're pregnant all the time. So you gotta hold this weight for the baby.
Wow.
So I agree.
What a challenge.
It can be, but I do miss things like toast spaghetti.
Yeah, I'm not saying I eat that stuff every day.
Yeah,
because you get to my age, you got to watch the calories because you put them on, you can't take them back off.
Oh yeah, like oh gosh, that's all you had to say was carbs, and that's all. That you have my heart. And what's your hidden talent? All of them, basically.
A hidden talent.
Not related to crafting, like maybe like you sail sailboats or something. Or go have an outrigger.
No, nothing that impressive, but I do 1,000 things. So, I mean, I garden all year. I am a beekeeper. I am a fermentor. I have a side gig and I sell probiotic cultures that I raise. So my kitchen is often looking like a biology experiment. There are living things all around all the time.
Does that explain the new dire wolf?
You lost me.
Oh, so that there was a scientific thing that came out recently where they resurrected a dire wolf.
Oh, yeah. No
dire wolves then.
That one went right over. Yeah. Apparently not. But
good.
yeah, so yeah, living things, fermentation. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's would you call it a talent?
I think it's a talent.
I call it a superpower.
There we go. I can pogo stick. In comparison, that feels pretty weak. Kind of just should have stayed silent. So
I end up breaking a hip.
what is your dream travel destination?
Oh, I love travel. And you know what? As I've retired, I've retired from, I've been many things. I've been realtor and title insurance and a nurse. I most recently retired from being a nurse. So since I've retired from that, I have enjoyed travel. I just, like I said, went to the Shetland Islands. I just got back from the Pacific Northwest. It was beautiful. I'm hoping to go to Denmark next year. I have lived in Japan. I have lived in England. So I've done a lot of my destinations. I have never been to a Muslim country, though.
Interesting.
So I'd say that was a bucket list item, non-specific bucket list item.
How interesting.
Yeah.
You're a very interesting person. Oh my goodness.
I've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
I have been gifted. I don't know if it's gifted. I think there's doors in front of us all the time and you choose to open them.
Sure.
I open them. I be a yes person and open all the doors.
That's actually one of my slogans is just say yes.
Just say yes.
That's a very popular and trendy right now. for people my age to say, to brag about canceling plans, to brag about staying home and watching TV and ordering Uber Eats.
Yeah,
and
I don't get it.
I can't, yeah. And you just miss out on so much. I mean, there are times when I make plans and later on I might regret it, but I'm going to go out and I'm never sorry for going out. In fact, I've made it a motto in the past year that when I get a chance to go outside, I'm going to go outside.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I'm a very intense person. Whatever I do, I'm doing 100% at any time, and that is exhausting.
Yes.
So for me, I just finished a 10-day trip on the road by myself. I went and visited some family and friends up in Oregon and Washington, but much of that time was spent by myself just on the road. And for me, that is healing. It's just healing. I work hard and play hard, and then I have to just be with me.
Absolutely.
And so travel allows that. Yeah.
Very Buddhist. And pop culture. This is
Okay.
Pop Culture Cuties. Are you a pop culture cutie? I guess today you're a pop culture cutie.
I try and keep up,
Keep up,
but
okay.
I don't watch a lot of TV. I try and stay current with certain genres
Yeah,
of music.
gotcha.
I don't know. Try me.
All right, let's find out. So we realized that your interest lies in a specific show, Schitt's Creek.
Oh, we love Schitt's Creek around
Yes.
here. Yeah.
And I'm not super familiar with Schitt's Creek. I'm familiar with the memes and the GIFs. I love the David GIFs. David, he's the guy with the eyebrows, right?
Ooh, David. Yes.
Yes. No, he has the best. He has the best GIFs. So, which Schitt's Creek character do you most relate to, and why?
Probably David, because he's he just doesn't have a filter, and Moira, definitely Moira. There's a little eccentricity in me that lends me to Moira. And yeah, we love that show. That you asked me about comfort food. That show is comfort food in our house.
Yes, that's a good point. And that's, for me, that's Gilmore Girls. And let's see, what is your favorite David? And again, this is another, I see a lot of these GIFs or like mini reels on these two. So what's your favorite David and Alexa's sibling moment?
Don't be a little bee. If
Yeah,
you
I
know,
love how
you
they talk to each
know.
other. The way they talk to each other is so funny. Which Moira Rose line lives in your head rent free?
Oh, it's so hard to come up with a specific line from her. You look like a, when she tells David he looks like a pelican, but it's I screwed it up, Schitt's Creek fans, but, there's just one line after
It's not
the
a bad
next.
fandom, so they won't come after you with pitchforks. So there are some fandoms that they would come at you. You know, you'd see your DMs filled with hate.
Yeah, I can do all the ones from the memes, like you fold it in and things like
Yeah.
that. And again, if you know, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek has a pretty decent fandom. Like they're not going to come at you.
Cult
you know?
fandom.
Yeah. They're not going to come at you in the same way like Vampire Diaries or.
I'm just
some
not
of
good.
these
I've
other
never been
ones.
good at feeding stuff back. I'm just not that
I'm not either.
person. Quotable quotes is not me.
Yeah. And who do you think, 'cause we talked about how character driven so many TV shows are now, and Schitt's Creek is one of those. Who had the biggest glow up by the end of the series?
Who were the biggest what?
Glow up. Like, who had the most change? Who was the most dynamic?
Oh, at the end of that series, definitely Alexis. But their relationship grew from being very disconnected and very self-absorbed to truly, genuinely caring about each other and connectivity. So I think they grew in their relationship as a group, and Alexis grew.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the show, and this conversation has been the catalyst. I have it
Yeah, you
downloaded.
have to.
I'm going to pull the trigger.
The first time you watch it, it's just like a lot of laughs. And then it just becomes the 6th time you watch the series. It just becomes a soothing bedtime story.
It's like a little fairy tale. It's awesome. And we also were chatting and realized we both love Steel Magnolias.
Yeah.
And that leads me to ask, I think we referenced it earlier, but we'll just reiterate it. What is your favorite line of the movie?
If you don't have something nice to say about someone, come sit next to me.
And everybody heard the tone that Clarice said it in when you said it. Everybody heard it, and they saw her expression.
Absolutely.
They saw her expression, and they knew exactly what we were talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Delivered on that one.
And I was telling Deb, my favorite is with Weezer Beauregard. Well, there's two. There's one where she cuts off the armadillo's butt and hands it to Rhett and says, "Here's a piece of ass." And then there's the other one where she
hacked into that armadillo.
It was awesome. I love their relationship. I bet he's such a gentleman. I bet he takes the plates out of the sink before he pees in it. Like, oh, she's so funny. My all-time favorite is when she brings in a bag of tomatoes, and she explains that she doesn't like gardening, and she doesn't even like the floppy hat she's wearing, but she says, "I'm an old Southern woman, and we grow tomatoes, and we wear an old Southern woman hat." And I learned from that, and I now grow tomatoes because of this movie, and I have my old Southern woman hat.
Yep.
So what's your favorite Truvy beauty tip?
Truvy beauty tip. I just remember I remember when Shirley MacLaine's character has her lip being done.
Yes.
And it's a favorite beauty tip. I just remember they did it in two parts and how much she looked like a bunny. Like her lip was separating on top when she had
I remember that exact posture. I think my favorite Truvy beauty tip was about always wearing your body sculptor, your body shaper.
Always having your body shaper on. Yeah,
how she said, "I haven't gone out without body shaper since I was 14.
Yeah.
And then I think Weezer said Clarice said, "That's because your mom raised you right."
That's because your mom raised you right.
And we all know the tone it was said in, absolutely. And so do you think Weezer is truly grumpy or just misunderstood?
No, she's not. She's just misunderstood.
I think
that's
so.
just her character. That's her personality.
Yeah.
That's her
thing.
That's her defensiveness.
Like, she was so sad when that little baby came up and slapped her.
I think she's really a softie inside, and so she has to portray that on the outside so no one can get to her.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
She's frail. She's had deceased husbands. She's got nothing but a bunch of, old coot guys following her around, and she's just,
tough as nails, but it is a bit of a defense.
Yeah.
But she's very kind to, and I can't believe I'm forgetting her name, to the new girl in town.
Yeah.
Realistic with her, but also very kind. And she gives you glimpses into the soft part.
Absolutely.
And that's what's so great about that movie, is it really gets into the complexities of women, and it's multi-generational and multi-class, and breaks a lot of barriers down and kind of shows the things which we are like.
Which kind of brings me back to knitting circles.
That's right.
There's you end up with people that you never would have met otherwise. It's kind of like a bar or a confessional in a way. You're talking about things you might not tell them otherwise in other contexts, but there you are, and suddenly you're all very comfortable with each other, and you're telling your stories, and you're telling things, and sometimes I'm driving home going, I can't believe I told anybody that, but there you are. There are intimacies among people who share certain things, and I don't want to say just women, in finding the common thing that you share, you're more willing to give to others, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going back to, ladies and gentlemen sitting in a circle, knitting, talking about how Cletus lost his dad's cow, to ladies today talking about how Sadie opened up an OnlyFans,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
The tea that's spilled at knitting
the tea
circles.
That is spilled.
But for the people on the outside, not on the inside.
Right.
It's all the people on the outside.
Yes, we don't speak of it beyond that.
That's right. And what happens at knitting circle stays at knitting circle. All right. So, Deb, where can listeners connect with you?
Madeinhabersham.com, madeinhabersham@gmail.com, or call, there's a conversation box. You can, my phone number is on there. And in the fall, I will be publishing a list of the vendor events I'll be going to. So keep me in mind when you're doing your Christmas shopping. And if, there's just something special you want to have made for yourself, summer is the time for that. Because that's when I have the time. So, I hope you reach out. And there's nothing like that you can't ask. If I can do it, I will. And if I can't, I'll try and direct you elsewhere.
That's right. And that is all for today. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for our Instagram Live session or catch our latest episode on Spotify and YouTube. I will download that. We'll put it in Presbyterian church terms as soon as the Spirit moves me. So that'll either be tonight or early tomorrow. We can't wait to have you join us. Take care. Talk soon. Also, before I go, got to do a quick plug. I'm hosting 3 different events during May. One is a princess tea party at Arrows Farm. Why wait to give... Why? Excuse me. I know, I'm getting my plugs confused. All right. Just check it out on Facebook. I've been very sick. I've had a lot of Sudafed today.
And I was the nervous one going into this.
Yes, well, I woke up and my eyes swollen this morning, and it's not on my script, and I'm trying to ad-lib it, and I should have known better. So, good night. God bless you.
Make a wish for ones with a secret. And if I manifest best, guess I'll keep it. I'm sick guy with the funny face.